yourself in a situation where perhaps you have been in a difficult conversation that came from nowhere. You didn't even expect the conversation to go in this direction. Or maybe you are planning to have a difficult conversation with a peer, a coworker, a direct report, your manager, your boss, your business associate, and etc. If you ever have felt a sense of just dread, knowing that a difficult conversation is going to happen, or maybe you have been caught off guard because it happened, this is the best video for you to watch here on YouTube. I'm going to share with you some time-tested, battle-tested strategies that will help you be able to navigate difficult conversations because they can be very, very difficult. But if you watch this video until the end, I guarantee you the framework, the strategies I'm going to share with you at a high level view will help you be able to make difficult conversations a little bit easier for you to navigate and manage. And if this sounds like something you are interested in learning more about, then feel free to check out a couple videos on my live tab. I talk very heavily about advanced communication skills and strategies that will help you to be able to communicate more confidently and concisely under pressure. Now, if you happen to be a woman in leadership and you are in my direct target audience, I provide executive coaching and consultation services too. You're welcome to reach out to me for an executive strategy session at exciteexcellence.org so we can come up with a plan to help you overcome some of these challenges that you're experiencing right now and help you move forward in your career. If you happen to be outside of my target audience, maybe you are a man in leadership, or you may be someone that is not a leader just yet, I guarantee you that you're going to learn something from this live today. So I want to say hello to those of you who are joining today. Let me know what part of Big Beautiful World you are joining from today, friends. And if you want to learn how to make difficult conversations a lot easier. So I see we have Kat 23rd. Hello, Kat. Good to see you, friend. Good evening to you also, Kat. Good to see you as always. We're going to talk about this. This is going to be a very candid live. It's Friday. I have a lot more time to spend with you all today, and I want to be able to give you some insights on this topic specifically. We have Maxwell Cat 456. Hello, Maxwell. How you doing today? Let me know what part of the Big Beautiful World you all are joining from today, and if you are ready to stop struggling with having difficult conversations. Let me know in the comments below. Let's talk about it. So I want to share with you, there's a couple things. And Maxwell Cat says, I'm doing good. I'm glad you're doing well, Maxwell Cat. There's a couple overall strategies I want to share with you. If you are at that point, you're trying to navigate these difficult conversations. Hello. Welcome to all of you who are joining today. Let me know what part of Big Beautiful World you all are joining from today and what questions you have about difficult conversations. We have Chill 200. Hello, Chill. Hope you're doing well today. So let me tell you overall what the categories are to help you be able to make difficult conversations easy, and then we're going to go into each one of those. And if you have questions, let me know. First is you want to be able to internally regulate yourself. So there's internal regulation. There's external regulation. There is preparing. And then there's the execution. And I'm going to go into detail on all of these insights that I just mentioned to you in terms of how this can help you to start making difficult conversations easy. And by the end of this video, you will have a good idea in terms of what you need to start working on to make your difficult conversations a little bit easier. I want to say hello to, Traudria Newton. If I said it incorrectly, I am sorry about that. Hope you're doing well today. So let's talk about this. If you've ever been in a difficult conversation, let me know in the comments below. Have any of you ever been in a difficult conversation? Let me know in the comments below. Were you okay with it, or did it not go the way you wanted it to go? Let's talk about it. I'm here to support you on your journey. Ask me anything as it relates to this topic. When you're trying to make difficult conversations easy, it may sound like something that does not exist. It may sound like a mystical unicorn that people have heard about. They hear it, they've heard rumors about it, but they know that it doesn't exist. Well, I'm here to tell you, you can make difficult conversations very, very easy. First, you have to start with your on internal regulation. Now, I'm sharing with you over 20 years of experience of myself. I've been a C-suite executive. I've been a director. I've been a senior leader. I've interacted with congressional leaders over the years, and I've been in some very friendly and contentious conversations. So I'm sharing this with you from experience that I've had that will help you. When you are trying to navigate and make difficult conversations easier, there's a certain aspect of the conversation that you have to manage within yourself. Now, this part I'm sharing with you is something you have to prepare for and you have to work on very, 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 very diligently. I'm just going to give an overview today. But when you hear difficult or you hear words or scenarios or things that are discussed with you that make you feel, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening. You have to work on in here. You have to work on how are you internally regulating your emotions when those difficult conversations come up. For example, if you are having a difficult conversation and whether you are preparing for it or it just came out of nowhere and you didn't expect it to be difficult, how you mentally process the information will directly impact how you respond to the situation. And thank you for the heart emojis. I appreciate that. If you, in your mind, when you hear something and someone maybe says something that is critical of you, or maybe they are bantering with you, or maybe they disagree with something that you said, if you mentally in your mind think, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do, I don't know what to say, you pretty much you've lost it because your mind goes into panic mode. And whenever we go into panic mode, we don't think as clearly as we would when we are a bit more calm. Let me know in the comments below if you've ever been in a really challenging situation where you just completely blanked. You completely blanked, you froze, you didn't know what to say, you didn't know how to say it, when to say it, or anything. Has it happened to you before? This is what happens very often when people start having difficult conversations and they are caught off guard. They're like a deer in the headlights. They don't know what to say. If you can start working on how you internally process challenges, it will help you to make difficult conversations a lot easier for you to be able to navigate. There's a lot of ways that you can do this. I talk about this a lot on my channel. I'll give you just one thing to consider, but if you want some more customized support and you happen to be in my direct target audience as a woman in leadership, you are welcome to reach out to me on any platforms. The way I can help you will definitely change your life. But knowing some of your triggers, we talk about this a lot on my channel, is really important in terms of the internal regulation that you need to have if you're trying to make difficult conversations a lot easier. The internal regulation is really important. And if you know there's certain words, there's certain mannerisms, there's certain gestures that trigger you and will make you get upset, then you will be one step ahead of the game. So when those difficult conversations come up, those triggers don't bother you too much like they did in the past. So that's the first one. Let me know what questions you all have as it relates to difficult conversations. Are you planning for a difficult conversation or you just don't know what to do about a difficult conversation? Let me know in the comments below. Now, my second insight, topic, strategy that will help you start to making difficult conversations a bit easier. Now, remember, this is just an overview, very much a 50,000 foot view, is the external regulation of yourself. Now, we talked about internally. There's certain things you have to master in your mind in terms of how do you respond to stress. That's something that you have to learn. It's something that you have to be trained to do. This is what I do with my clients. My channel, my work specifically is very surgical in this approach. I'm very detailed and I'm here to really figure out what it is that's triggering you so we can make sure you get over it. Now, before I go into the second one, I saw something came in the chat. Cat23 says, can advocacy play a role in difficult conversations? Yes. If you can advocate for yourself, it plays a tremendous role in difficult conversations. Let me give you an example. I just had a conversation with someone earlier today, and we were having a discussion with something they were dealing with as a client, etc. But they were having a difficult conversation about their salary specifically. And what happened is, typically when people want to talk about salaries and raises and etc., they're a bit timid. They're a bit shy because they don't advocate for themselves. But this person specifically, she's been working for an organization for 10 years. And she was at a point where she wanted to ask for additional money for a raise and etc. And the conversation became a bit difficult because there was a couple things that were thrown at her that she was not expecting, but she continued to advocate for herself. So advocating for herself allowed her to basically be able to navigate a difficult conversation a bit easier because there's a certain amount of confidence and conviction that she had about this specific topic. So advocacy, Kat, can definitely play a role in difficult conversations. If you can advocate for yourself, depending on the conversation. So Kat, you may be the receiver or you may be the giver of the difficult conversation. So it depends on which I would say side of the table you're on. But if you can advocate for yourself, that means you are confident in what you are saying. That means you are able to have a difficult conversation because in your mind, this is that internal regulation, Kat. In your mind, you know that you are at a point where you have been able to know this is exactly what's going to change my life. This is what I need right now, and I'm not changing my mind. You would be surprised how if you are just committed to whatever it is that you need to have accomplished in this situation or whatever the case may be, then it will actually give you a bit more of a confidence boost to feel a little bit better about having a difficult conversation. It will change your life, Kat. It will change your life when you know, I know this is what I need and I'm not changing my mind on it, as long as it's within the parameters of my business, organization, whatever I'm working with. But it really does change your life. You just need that one time. I'm telling you everyone, you need that one conversation, just one. You need just one conversation where you speak up for yourself and you feel like, you know what? I'm okay. I can do this. It will change your life. And that's what I'm here to help you do. All right, we have Jared Jansen, 4122. Hello, Jared. How you doing today? Gerard, I believe Gerard. I'm sorry. I hope you're doing well today. Kat said receiving. So yes, if you're on the receiving end of a difficult conversation, Kat, that's where that internal regulation will come into play. And if you advocate for yourself, as I mentioned a moment ago, it will actually help you with that internal regulation because you pretty much have to trick your mind to say, I'm going to listen to what's being said, but I already have my mind made up. So for instance, and if you have a specific situation, Kat, you know I'm here to help you, friend. So for instance, if you know that you need to get an increase in your salary, or you know you need to change your work hours, or you know you need to maybe modify a task, you have to have it made up in your mind to do that. And the only way for you to do it is to regulate yourself and start to think about, well, I know this is what I need. When you say I know, that means you're telling your mind that I'm confident that this is the steps I need to take. When you say, I'm not sure, maybe so, I have to think about it, all of those words right there are telling your mind that you don't know what to do. And therefore, if your mind doesn't know what to do, then your mind will just go blank and it will not do anything. And you don't want to do that, especially if you're on the receiving end of a difficult conversation. This is why that internal regulation and why I listed it as number one, because there's a lot of videos here on YouTube that will tell you, do this on the difficult conversation. Say this on the difficult conversation. And they're all very important. I do that on my channel as well. But there's a step further that you have to go to in terms of how you process stress, how you process challenges in your mind that will actually help you manage difficult conversations, whether you are giving the difficult conversation or you're on the receiving end of a difficult conversation. Ace Hunter, I60, hello, welcome. All right, so we talked about that specifically. So let's see, Cat 23 says, colleagues challenging your ideas. Okay, so we talked about the internal regulation that you need to have. You have to start learning, how do I regulate when I'm under pressure? What are my triggers? What are the words, the mannerism, etc. that I need to really pay attention to? Now, Kat, so for the next insight I want to share with you, we'll go into what's happening specifically if you're having colleagues challenging your ideas. And if you have anything more specific, let me know. The next aspect is the external regulation. Now, this is the part that is just as important as the internal regulation. Why? Because how you are showing your emotions and etc. truly do dictate how this conversation is going to go. For example, your facial expressions, your body language, and your nonverbal and verbal gestures, or how you speak, will directly impact what people think about you in a difficult conversation. For example, if you have colleagues challenging your ideas, Kat, they're challenging you and they're saying, Kat, no, we don't agree with you, we don't like what you're saying, or whatever they're saying. If you respond externally in a way that shows that you are frustrated, that you're mad, or that you're angry, then they will think, oh, we got Kat. We got Kat. We know we can challenge Kat all the time, and Kat's not going to do anything because we can see it, right? However, if you learn how to control yourself externally, meaning you're a bit more mindful of how your facial expressions are, you're mindful of how you speak or when you speak, your eye contact, your tone of voice, all of those high level skills that we talk about on this channel, then the next time someone challenges you, you can provide them with a straight face, a direct eye contact to make them think twice about challenging your ideas. As I've mentioned many times on this channel, there are three major aspects of communication that most people in the world struggle with: eye contact, facial expressions, and silence. If you can manage those specifically in your situation, the next time someone challenges you or you are in a difficult conversation, it automatically puts you ahead of majority of the individuals because they do not know how to master these skills. They are not trained to know how to master these skills. They don't even know what these skills are. They just know people talk and they observe it and they feel some type of way about it, but they can never truly articulate what that feeling is. But I'm sharing with you exactly what it is. That's what I do here on the channel. So managing how you respond externally is important. This is the reason why if you work on internal regulation first, it will impact your external regulation. If you mentally in your mind know, I'm okay, they're challenging me, this will be fine, let me state my facts, your facial expressions will show that. And many people get things confused because they think, oh, I just need to say this. I need to speak in this way. But if you don't have it here, when you speak, it's not going to come out that way, or your facial expressions will give away that you're frustrated, you're angry, and etc. Now, there are times where you need to show emotion in a difficult conversation. There are strategic times when you do that. That's definitely another video, but I don't want you to think that just because you have a difficult conversation, you have to be very stoic in appearance, like a statue. You don't need to be like a statue in a difficult conversation. But there are times strategically, if you use expressions on your face, your tone of voice, you elevate your voice, you lower your voice, you soften your voice, you have more conviction in your voice, that it will actually make a big impact on your conversation. This is something that is a bit more of an advanced communication skill, but this is something that I am sharing with you as a public speaker over 20 years. Cat 2030 says, avoid institutional defensiveness. Yes, so you just want to be mindful of what's going on, what is being said, and just really listen. And we talk about this a lot, Kat, and I know you've been on a lot of the lives. So when you have those situations come up where it's a difficult conversation, a challenge, or something along those lines, you have to have some backstory. Does this person know they're challenging me or giving me a hard time? Or are they doing it unintentionally or intentionally? That's really the first part of the decision-making tree is, Is this on purpose or is this an accident? You have to figure that out, because if it's on purpose, you address it a certain way. If it's on accident, then you address it a different way, but still address it nonetheless. So that is a great way for you to be able to start making those decision-making trees. And I know it sounds like a lot of information, but the more you watch videos or watch my channel, for those of you watching the replay and etc., the more these strategies I'm sharing with you, even though it may sound very foreign right now and it may sound, wow, this is really detailed, the more you listen, the more you start to practice this in your day-to-day conversations, you'll start to pick up. You'll start to pick up and you'll say, okay, wait, this is friendly, this is not friendly. I need to respond like this, or no, I don't need to respond like this. Just hang in there with me. You're going to learn a lot. All right, so the third aspect of being able to make difficult conversations easy, and thank you for the smiley faces and the heart emojis, is the preparing of what you're going to say. Now, I know we've talked about this a lot, and let me know in the comments below if you've ever had a difficult conversation, if you want to share more insight on your conversation and how things could go differently, or you may want to modify it, then let me know in the comments below. But how you respond or develop a response is important. I mentioned at the very beginning that you need to know your triggers. Your triggers are important. If someone challenges you, you have to have some type of template. There needs to be some template that you're going to say to address the situation. And if you need to buy yourself time, as I tell you many times on my channel, if you need to buy yourself time, there's ways for you to do that. Take a look at some of my videos that talk about people interrupting you or challenging you. I'll go into more detail there. But you have to start preparing responses. And it doesn't mean that everything that you say is a canned response, a templated response. It doesn't mean that. You just need a few responses specifically to know when you are challenged, when someone challenges you, what you do. Another part of preparation and preparing that I'm mentioning to you is knowing some numbers. You have to know some data, some numbers. If you can give even just one data point, one statistic, one number, it will automatically set you apart from everybody else, and people have to really start thinking about what you're saying, because you're positioning yourself as an authority. Okay, Cat2030 says, question. Cat, you know you can ask me a question anytime, friend. Go right ahead. Now, I'm going to go into the fourth aspect of making conversations or making difficult conversations easy while I'm waiting for Cat's question, and that is the execution. As I mentioned at the beginning, you may think that all of these things coming into place are going to make things harder for you. But I will tell you from just my own personal experience over the past 20 years being in those very much friendly and contentious conversations, that if you can start following the roadmap that I just gave you, even though it's at a high level, but you start working on it, you will automatically start feeling like, oh, this is not that hard. When I have difficult conversations right now, they are not difficult to me, especially when it comes to communicating with team members or supervisors or managers or whatever the case may be. It's second nature to me. It's because I don't necessarily enjoy them, but I became very, very good at them because I've practiced quite a bit. All right, want to say hello to Rowing Expert. Hello, welcome, welcome. I believe I remember what your first name is, but I want to make sure. I think is it Tom? If it's not, I'm sorry. But I want to say hello, welcome, welcome. Glad you're here today. Kat says, how do I repair if I already responded poorly? And Rowan Expert says, Tom. All right, see, I do remember Tom, especially when you come on the live and you let me know your name. I do my best to try to remember my audience. I appreciate you being here, Tom. And hope you're doing well today, friend. So let's go back to Kat's question. How do I repair if I already responded poorly? Okay, Kat, this is something that I am incredibly passionate about, and we're going to dive right into it because there's a way you can start to repair it. If you responded poorly, it's okay. And Roy Expert says, you remembered? Yes, I do remember that your name is Tom. It's just a part of who I am, my past lives, I would say. Not past lives, past roles. I really do pay attention to those things like that. Okay, so, and I appreciate the heart emojis. Okay, so if you've made a mistake, and we all make mistakes, and you have responded maybe not in the best way when someone's challenged you, how do you repair this? How do you fix this? How can you correct it? The best way for you to be able to do it is a couple things. One, you acknowledge that, okay, this is incorrect. This is not something that I wanted to do. I didn't do it correctly. That's fine. But then we have to think about how do we fix this? So we almost go back to the very beginning of the video. So first, Cap, let's think about the conversation. What specifically about a conversation, that challenge that happened, that made you not respond the way you wanted to? There's probably something that was said to you that threw you off guard. You said, whoa, I didn't expect them to challenge me in that way. There's something that happened. So let's go back and identify what we would do. This is what I would do if you were one of my clients. What was it that caused you to become caught off guard? What was it? What was it? There's something that was said. There's something that was maybe not said. There's an action. There's something that made you feel like, oh, I'm upset. Then let's think about, okay, what is the next thing we need to do? We know what that thing is. How can we prevent this from happening? One, I would say, let's work on your knowledge base. There may be something, if someone's challenging you specifically, is that they may be just giving you a hard time, but sometimes people cannot give you a hard time if you're presenting facts and data. So if you're working on a specific topic or a situation or etc., you have to have your numbers, your facts together so that if someone tries to challenge you, you can automatically say, oh, well, I know that this is X percentage, this is the impact that it's having, etc. And it's a little bit harder to challenge someone when they actually have some data that is valid to support it. Now, there's people that would challenge you back and forth with that. I've been in situations along those lines where you're just exchanging data back and forth. But for your case, Kat, you want to make sure that you have a really solid foundation. If someone's challenging your ideas, have some statistics, something showing why your idea is successful or how it has proven to be very successful from reputable organizations, journals, media outlets. Some media outlets, you have to just be careful nowadays. But just make sure you're getting some reputable information that you can share with someone. Make sure you got your data together. And then let's think about the next step. So the next step is, we know this happened. How can we prevent this if someone's challenging your ideas? Your ideas have to have some support behind them. So let's make sure you have some pretty good support for your ideas. And then the next part of that would be to see how could you have responded differently. One of the things that I would tell you to do is when you have those situations come up, you have to pause and think. And I've mentioned this on my channel. Whenever you find yourself in a hard situation and you don't know what to say, pass it back to the person and say, can you clarify exactly what do you mean? Give them time to respond, and then that gives you time to think, so that when they finish their response, you can respond back and say, this is specifically what I need to do. Once you start doing that, that helps you to start repairing that situation that may have happened. Another thing is, you have to become, you still want to be yourself, but you have to become a little bit distanced from other people. Specifically, this is really important. When you have those challenges, you have to be that person that is very hyper-focused on their job or focused on their task, so that you don't interact and engage with people if they're talking about nonsense. That actually helps to start showcasing and developing your executive presence, because you're putting yourself in a situation where you're highly focused on what you're doing. You don't have time for nonsense. And these little strategies that I'm sharing with you over time will start to help you gain more credibility when those challenging situations come up. So when they come up, people don't feel like they need to challenge you. But a lot of it has to do with a lot of the things we talked about. Internally, what's going on, your regulation there. Externally, your facial expressions. And then how you prepare in advance. That would be your data, your statistics you want to have about your ideas, and the execution, which I'm going to talk about in just a second. All right, so we have Cat 2030 says the person's reaction in facial changes. So, yes, and hello Biggie 1865. Hope you're doing well today. So, yes, so Kat, I appreciate you mentioning that, and this is the reason why that external regulation is important. The way, the dynamic that changed here is the person's facial reaction, and it made you feel not comfortable because they were challenging you. Now, if someone challenges you and you push back or you give that supporting data to say, this is why my idea is really great, you may notice their facial expressions start to change. It will get to a point, Kat, when you're very highly skilled at this, where you can look at people's facial expressions and you pick up on it, you notice it, you take a mental note, but it doesn't bother you. It doesn't faze you. And when that happens, then when you're able to communicate back to people when you're being challenged, and thank you for the heart emojis, then your facial expressions will show them that whatever it is that you just said, no matter how bad they said your idea was and they didn't like it and etc., it doesn't faze you because you know your idea is very good. That is when people will start to act a bit differently with you because they say, oh, I told Kat her idea was horrible and it was bad, and she just looked at me. People underestimate the power, not only in silence, but the power in your facial expressions, because sometimes you just have to show people you don't care what they have to say. But you want to make sure that you're being very much collaborative, persuading them that this is a really good idea. But managing your facial expressions will help you. So start managing your facial expressions. Really think about those triggers, because obviously that facial change was a trigger for you. You didn't like it. So if you know facial expressions and facial changes, maybe they scowled or they looked at you a little odd, is a trigger for you, then Kat, we have to go backwards and say, if this is a trigger for you, then how can we get over this trigger? The next time somebody does this to you, let's make sure it doesn't affect you up here, because I know that it bothered you a little bit. Okay, so Charlotte Klein, welcome back, Charlotte. How you doing today? Good to see you again. So now we're talking about the execution. So how can you execute on the things that I just mentioned to make these difficult conversations easy? We've talked a little bit about it with Kat. So specifically, when you're at the point where you are internally regulated, you know that you can control your facial expressions, and sometimes it takes time to build this. And if you're a woman in leadership, you need support, definitely reach out to me for an executive communication analysis. It will change your life in terms of how you manage these situations. But you have your internal regulation, you have your external regulation, you're preparing, you have your data, you have your talking points, what you want to say. How do you execute it? You execute it by speaking in a very, very confident voice. And that only will come into play if it's okay up here. If you have given your mind permission to say, I know what I'm doing, I know what I'm saying, I'm confident, then you will be able to speak confidently. But if you have the least bit of doubt and say, oh, I'm not quite sure, that doubt will start to come out in terms of how you execute a difficult conversation. Now, remember, difficult conversations do not have to be difficult. They just are conversations, but they may just have something else that is making them a bit more complex. So you want to execute it by being able to speak in a very, very much affirmative voice. So you don't want to say, I'm not sure, I believe, I think so, probably so, perhaps, maybe, let's see how things work out. All of those words are not affirmative at all. They are not affirmative words. I don't know, I'm not sure. You want to say words that are a bit more affirmative, such as, I know, I have reviewed, I have observed, I have interacted with, I've experienced. All of those type of words are a bit more affirmative. When you are having those difficult conversations, you need to use more affirmative words. Why? Because if you use affirmative words in a difficult conversation, it will help you to be able to start controlling the conversation. Because sometimes when you're in the middle of a difficult conversation, there's the giver and the receiver. Somebody is starting this difficult conversation or making it more difficult than it really needs to be. And there is usually some form of an emotion there with the giver. They may be upset about something, they're not happy about something. Therefore, if you can take some time to say, okay, I know this person is upset. I know they're maybe up here emotionally and I'm down here, I'm not as emotional, then it helps you to control the conversation as best you can. Now, there are times, I will say, that when you have somebody that is very, very, very upset, they may be way up here and they want to bring you up there. and they may just argue back and forth until they can get you there. Well, those type of people, those are situations where you have to exit the conversation, leave quickly, thank you for the heart emojis, and detract yourself specifically as it relates to this particular situation. So there's different situations that will happen sometimes as a leader, and there's certain situations that come up that make the conversations really difficult. Now, as I mentioned at the beginning, if you start working on all of these insights I've shared with you, it will help to start making difficult conversations a bit easier, because it's just like any other skill that you are developing. You have to learn about the skill. Well, first you have to be aware of it and say, oh, I didn't even know that this was something that I need to work on or that I could develop. Then you have to start learning about the skill. What do I need to learn? How do I need to do this? And then it goes into how you start practicing it in your everyday conversations. And the more you do it, the more you will start to become very good at it, so you get to the point where you master it. And then when someone comes to you with a difficult conversation or a difficult situation, you're ready to go at any point in time. I will share with you, this is exactly what I developed and what I did over the past 20 years to help me be able to become more comfortable, highly comfortable with difficult conversations. And as I mentioned, there's times when you need to show emotion, and that's just as anybody that's communicating. But there's times when you don't need to show emotion to manage a difficult conversation. Because when you're in difficult conversations, you want to make sure that you are the person that is controlling the conversation, not the other way around. You want to have a dialogue with the person, of course, but there has to be some level of control that happens so that this conversation doesn't go from, let's say, 0 to 1,000 in just a matter of moments. I've been in conversations like that, and I was personally caught off guard, which is the reason why I share this with you now, that you have to know these things. Now, let me know in the comments below, have you ever had a difficult conversation? If so, how did it go? What are some things that you wish you could have done differently? We've talked about a couple things as it relates to difficult conversations. They will become easier the more you start implementing these insights or these strategies that I've shared with you in this live. You have to keep practicing it. And by subscribing to this channel and following my content here is a great way for you to start learning how to master these situations and be that person that communicates in those very high stakes, high pressure situations. Most people struggle with this. As I mentioned this morning, most people do not, I repeat, do not want to be in a conflict. They don't want to deal with a hard situation. They don't want to deal with a challenge. If you can position yourself as someone who is comfortable with those challenges, comfortable with people challenging you, or comfortable with people, maybe having a difficult conversation and being the deliverer of the bad news, unfortunately, the more you will start to be able to elevate yourself as a leader, because not everyone can do that. There's plenty of leaders out there that can communicate very well. They communicate in a very well way. They're very articulate. They know what to say, how to say it, and all of those wonderful things. However, what happens when this conversation goes under pressure? All of the communication, all the articulation, all the well-spoken words will go completely out the window, because you will not know how to control your emotions under pressure. And there's a couple videos on my channel that talk specifically about managing your emotions under pressure. And that is a great way for you to start. And that leads into the very first insight I share with you in terms of being able to have that internal regulation of how you process stress, how you process challenges. There's just certain aspects of it you have to work through if you're trying to be that person that can communicate in those very high stakes, high pressure situations. And a difficult conversation is definitely one of those. All right, so we have Cat2030 says, well, I've once raised my voice towards someone, still living regrets of the aftermath because of how I handled myself in that situation. Cat, you know what? It's okay, friend. And I'm going to give you a high five and let you know it's okay. We are not perfect. We all make mistakes. I've made many of them, countless mistakes. And I know that sometimes when those situations happen and occur, it is something that really does live in your mind, and it just stays there. But just know, Kat, it's okay. We all make mistakes. You were upset, And I appreciate you so much for mentioning that, because that shows you having a heightened sense of awareness. And that is exactly what helps you move forward when those situations happen. So if you've raised your voice, you got upset, you got mad, you know what, Kat? It's in the past. It's in the past. Are you still okay? Is that person still okay? They're living and breathing, all is well, no one hurt themselves? I think it's a win. I think you'll be all right. So just know that it's okay to make mistakes. This is how you learn. And so now you know, when you have a situation when you're upset and you're challenged and you're mad, etc., that you know you will not raise your voice. And you will not raise your voice. You will say it in a way that was very, very, very calm. And that's exactly what you will need to do on the execution part of what I mentioned about making difficult conversations a bit easier. All right, so we have Louis Lodi. Hello, welcome, welcome. Do you have Instagram? Asking for a friend. Yes, I do have Instagram. I am at Excite Excellence on Instagram, Louis, and welcome to the channel. Pranav 7189. I have absolutely no idea what you're talking about. It sounds so ridiculous. I'm not even going to respond to that. Cat 23rd says the person's reaction was the thing that got me. Okay, well, Cat, this is very, very good. This is what we do in executive coaching sessions, is we find these things out. I know that facial expressions is a thing for you, because when someone challenged you, what was that trigger? Their facial expressions. And now you mentioned that the person's reaction, it was the thing that got to you. So it is facial expressions. So that's actually very, very good to know, because now we know that facial expressions is something that you have to work on in terms of how you process this up here. And that is something that takes time. If you ever need support, you're always welcome to contact me for an executive strategy session, or ask me any questions on any of the platforms I have accounts on. But we know that facial expressions is something that we have to work on with you specifically. And when someone makes a facial expression, we have to pretty much program your mind to say, I hate to say this, but this is the only way I can do it to help you understand it. Thank you for the heart emojis, because I personally do this myself. When someone makes a facial expression to me, first, let's go back. Let me go back. I have to go a step further. This is just as an executive coach. If facial expressions are something for you, there is something that probably happened in your past that maybe there's a facial expression potentially associated with it that made you feel not happy or puts you on guard. What is it? You don't have to share that here, but this is just something for you to start thinking about. But there's something that's there. There's something there why this is bothering you. And so now we know it, we move forward. And I would say when someone makes facial expressions like that, you have to be pretty much so confident in your mind to where when you see that facial expression, your mind literally says, I see it, take a note, I don't care. That's the best way I can explain to you. That's what my mind does. Now, if I see it, take mental note. Okay, person made facial expression in this way. I know they're probably thinking this, but I'm taking a note. Now, you don't want to forget it, but I don't care. And so you have to kind of train your mind to say, don't let this bother you. Don't let this facial expression bother you. Someone looks at you like, ooh, what are you talking about? That doesn't make sense. You have to train yourself to say, you know what? I know what I'm talking about. They don't know what they're talking about. And you have to kind of train your mind to say, okay, I see the facial expression. I see it. I see it. I'm not going to get upset. I'm not going to get upset. Try to ask, can you clarify? And usually when if you ask someone if they can clarify, their facial expression will turn from maybe the scowl to the surprise, because they're not expecting you to ask them to clarify, and they're probably not ready for it. All right, so we have Peace S2BO. Hello, hello. We have Ray. Hello, welcome, welcome. Hope you're doing well today. And Ray, I do not have super thanks. I know you said something about sending money. I don't have super thanks just yet, but my channel I probably will very, very, very soon, more than likely. So we've talked about a lot. So we've went through a lot as it relates to specific ways you can make these difficult conversations easier. So let me know what other question you have. It's Friday. I'm here to help you all, especially as much as I can, because I don't have to do a lot of extra things this evening. So if you have questions and you're watching the replay, put them in the comments below. If you're live with me now and you have questions about difficult conversations, I'm telling you, this is the best channel on YouTube. And I know I'm saying that, and you're probably thinking, oh no, there's millions of channels. No, there's no channel like this on YouTube that is going to give you that one-on-one guidance, support, that very tactical, surgical approach to communication to help you navigate these challenging situations. There's no channel like this, so feel free to ask me anything. Lewis Lodi says, I'm not an emotional person, but my partner is, and there's a disconnect sometimes. Any advice? Well, I've been in situations like that. And I know on this channel, I kind of focus a bit more. And hello, Mamu. Mamu Mahai. I'm sorry. I know I said that wrong. I'm sorry. Love from India. Hello, welcome, welcome. And Mike to where 1875, bless you from New Zealand. Well, welcome from New Zealand. Good to see you. Glad to see you. All right. So Lewis Lodi, back to your question. I focus a bit more on those topics as it relates to like leadership, communication, etc. But your question is a good one, because sometimes you may interact with coworkers and individuals that may be highly emotional, but you are not that highly emotional person. Sometimes I've been in situations like that too, to be quite honest with you. And sometimes, Lewis, if you're the person that's not emotional, sometimes you just have to let this person just work, just let them say whatever it is they need to say. But there still has to be a part of you that says, okay, I'm listening, I'm taking a note, but there has to be a part of it that you say, well, this doesn't bother me. Now, obviously, sometimes you may have disagreements, and sometimes what happens is you may be the person, as you said, that's not emotional, but the other person is, and they're expecting you to be emotional, but you're not emotional. I'm like that. I'm not a highly emotional type person. Like I'm just not. But there's people that are. And they have to understand that this is how you are. This is how you communicate. That doesn't mean you don't care. That doesn't mean you don't want to hear it. It doesn't mean any of that. You just communicate differently. Some things don't bother you as much as another person would. And so whenever you have those disconnects, it's just a matter of having a conversation and saying, these situations don't really bother me as much, or this is a situation where I don't have too much emotional input or output I need to give. I appreciate you sharing that with me, and go from there. I would say always tell a person, well, thank you for sharing how you feel. Just so that they feel like, okay, you listen to them. And I'm sure you did, because you said it's your partner. So just make sure you say, thank you for sharing how you feel. I really appreciate that. I have a little bit of a different take on it, but it's okay. I'm glad we're together, and we'll continue moving forward. So just having that dialogue. I understand, Lewis, how you feel, because I've been in situations like that. And I've been in situations like that. And so that's why I can speak from experience to just know that some people just way up here, right, Lewis? They just way up here and you're not there. Emotionally, you're just like, it's okay. Everything's fine. And they may think, no, everything's fine. No, it's not. The sky's falling. So you just have to meet them where they are. You love the person. They're your partner. So just know there's that balance. And they have to understand you. They have to understand that you are not the person that's going to freak out and panic about things. That's just not you. So if they're expecting you to freak out and panic, then guess what? They're probably not going to get that. So they have to understand that that's just the way you are. That's the way you communicate. However, you have to understand that about them. They're going to take something and they're going to be highly emotional about it. And you know that that's just the way they are. So you kind of have to work it out with any great partnership. You just have to balance it out. But each other needs to know how each other takes information and communicates. Okay, we have Samir Sawant. Hello, welcome, welcome. Ibram, you're saying something about, hi, mommy, I'm your abandoned child. Ibram, come on now. If you say something silly like that again, I will definitely hide you from the channel, because I don't have any abandoned kids friends. Let's see. Cat 2030 says, accountability plays a huge role when you want to recover from something wrong in a conversation. It does. It really plays a big role into it. Absolutely. Being accountable and holding yourself accountable is really important. And that's the first step, really, is to acknowledge that I made a mistake. And if it's something where you feel like you need to say, I'm sorry, I apologize, then be that person that just owns it and then go about your way. Because ultimately, you don't want to have a conversation that happens where, let's say, for instance, you got really upset and it's just kind of living in your mind forever. You don't want that. So if there's something that you feel like maybe you need to readjust how you're communicating, then say, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I did not plan for it to come out that way, or I'm sorry, I wanted to say it a little bit differently, etc. But when you're trying to recover, you have to recover. And that's one part of it. But if you ultimately know maybe you just didn't respond the way you wanted to respond, that's okay. You know the next time you will. The next time you're going to respond the right way. We just have to practice. We just have to work with each other to get you where you need to be. Lewis Lodi says, I appreciate you. Absolutely, Lewis. And you're welcome to subscribe to the channel if you want to learn more things like this. All right, so Sarah KWS, I don't know what you're talking about, but you are definitely spamming the chat. Stefan Tronalone, hello, Stefan, how you doing today? Good to see you again, friend. Cha-Cha Charlie, hello, welcome, welcome. Manjuneth says, hello, well, I appreciate that. And Cha-Cha Charlie 12 says, what is your message for the world? So we're talking about how to make hard, difficult conversations easier, Cha-Cha Charlie. And my channel focuses very heavily on advanced communication skills and strategies to help you communicate more confidently and concisely under pressure as a leader. That is the message that I have. And if you want to be that person that stands out from your peers and communicates at a higher level, then you're absolutely welcome to subscribe to the channel so that you can learn a lot more. So we've talked about a lot of things here. And if you have any other questions as it relates to these topics, difficult conversations, anything else that is going on, let me know in the comments below. For those of you watching, I do have a question for you. This is completely off topic, but it's something I want to ask. What are some of your goals that you plan on accomplishing this year? What are they? We're getting into Q3. We've already passed the new year. So what are some goals that you all are working on this year so we can talk about it? Okay, Cha-Cha Charlie 12 says, good answer. Well, thank you. Cat 2030 says, Will Charlie, Doc over here is trying to make the world a better place. Yes, make the world a better place by helping you all communicate at a higher level than your peers. Because as I've said this many times on my channel, it's not just me communicating with you directly, even though I love communicating with each and every one of you that are not trolls, okay? So most of you are not, but you know we get random trolls here and from time to time. But you may have someone you're interacting with that learns something about the way you communicate, and that passes along to their next generation or their family, their friends. I really am trying to change the world. And I know communicating in those very high stakes, high pressure situations is something that people just struggle with. I struggle with it. We all struggle with it. And so I want to make sure that at least I can help as many people in the world, whether you're in my target audience as a woman in leadership, or you are not in my audience, necessarily target audience for services. You're a man in leadership, or you are thinking about leadership, you're not sure yet. I'm trying to help as many people as I can, regardless of who you are, whether you're a man, whether you're a woman, I don't care. I want to make sure that you feel more confidently and concisely when you're under pressure, because I know this is something that people just don't really do. They struggle with. All right, we have our Slano 7543 says happy Ramadan. Yes, happy Ramadan to you, friend. So we talked a lot about different things. Let me know what goals that you all are accomplishing this year. What are some challenges you're facing as it relates to your careers? Maybe there's a specific goal you're trying to accomplish. Maybe there's a revenue goal you're trying to accomplish. And maybe you're struggling with it a bit. You're not sure how you can kind of get to it. Let me know in the comments below. As I mentioned, it's Friday night. So Friday nights I have a little bit more time here to answer any questions you have. I'm here really to support you, and I want to help you as much as I can. There's only but so much I can do communicating with you via here on YouTube. There's always a point in time where you just need that customized support. That's why we will work together. If you're interested in really, truly advancing pretty quickly, then let's work together. Okay, so we have Cell I'm going to say Selçuk Gol 2637 from Turkey. Hello, welcome. How you doing today? Cat 23rd says, want to finish my second college year and finish writing my book. Wow, Kat, that is amazing. Kat, what book are you writing, friend? You have to let me know. I'm so looking forward to it. And definitely, whenever you write your book, let me know. Be happy to promote it on the channel as well. We have Div Magadev from Singapore. Hello from Singapore. We have DJ Reek. So many Turkish people. I'm glad anybody's here from whatever country. All countries are amazing in their own way. And we have Div Magadev. I hope I said that right, friend. Says, how are you today? I'm doing fantastic. It's Friday. Every Friday is great. All right, we have BP Keen. Says, you have good hair color. Thank you so much. Charles Omungo. I'm sorry. Let me make sure I get that right. Charles Omungo. I believe I got it right. What time is it in your country? It's 3:15 in the morning in Kenya. Oh my goodness. And you're awake. Oh wow. So I am based out of the United States and it is 8:18 Eastern Standard Time. We have Connolly Forsay. How's life when the meaning is grace, but life is not truly meaning? So why? I would say that's an interesting question. I'm gonna keep going because it's an interesting question. But when you're saying life is grace, but it's not truly meaning, just explain to me what you're referring to. We have Prana Vanad. Can I subscribe? Yes, absolutely. If you like this information, you like this content, you're always welcome to subscribe. This is the best channel on YouTube if you're trying to learn how to communicate under pressure. We have Alamgir Enterprise. Hi, what's your name? I'm from India. Well, welcome from India, friend. It's probably early morning India time right now. My name is Dr. Jacinta. Nice to meet you. All right, so Div Magadev said you said it right. Oh, thank you. I'm glad I did. And Connolly, yeah, explain your question a little bit more. And Prana says, I hope I'm saying it correctly. How are you? I'm doing well. Cat 23 says, I write novels. Okay, great. Fantastic. And let's see. Connolly, as I mentioned, you have to explain that question a little bit more for me. And let's see. Prana Vinod, have you been to travel to India? No, I have not, but I have a lot of my friends that are based out of India. Okay, we have Div Magadev says liked and subscribed. It's 8:19 here. Well, I appreciate you for subscribing. You'll learn a lot from this channel. Really, if you're trying to truly elevate how you communicate and make sure you are controlling your emotions under pressure, feel free to share the channel with anyone else, your colleagues, whether they're women in leadership, men in leadership. You're going to learn a lot of information here from this channel, how to control yourself when you get upset and really stand out as a leader, because it's hard to do. But if someone said, I can show you how to communicate more confidently and concisely under pressure, you would definitely probably want to do it. So feel free to subscribe to the channel. And let's see. Okay, we have hi from India, from Alamgir. And Div Magadev says, I love the way you talk. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. We have Cookie Dough 111 says cookie for everyone. Thank you for the cookie emojis. I had cookies with my kids earlier today. I appreciate that. Div Magadev says very clear. And Alamgir Enterprise says, doctor, which kind of doctor? Okay, so for those of you who are new, because some of you are new, I can tell, I'm a practicing dentist. So I've been a dentist for a very, very, very long time. And I have transitioned into executive coaching and consulting because I had a very unique career as a dentist. I was not only treating patients and taking care of patients and etc., but I've actually been in very high-level senior leadership roles and interacted with congressional leaders here, and I've been on the news. I have done a lot of really interesting things. I've been a public speaker for 20 years, and I've been in those very friendly and very contentious situations specifically. And that is the reason why I'm here with you now, because I know there's a lot of information that's out there that tells people how to do things, but they don't really focus on those challenging situations that come up. So that's why I am here to support all of you. Div Magadev says, I want to talk as confidently as you. Well, Div, guess what? You are at the right channel for it. Feel free to take a look at a couple videos. I tell my audience the first videos or set of videos you may want to take a look at. There's a lot on my live tab. So I go live so much that I'm on YouTube's live streamer research panel. That's how much I go live right now. And if you're just starting to build up those foundations to communicate more confidently, Div Magadev, would be to look at videos that talk about tone of voice, handling your emotions under pressure, eye contact, and thinking on your feet. Those are good places for you to start. I have several videos on my live tab. Just take a look, see which one you think you want to watch, but that's a good place for you to get started if you're wanting to communicate more confidently. Cat 2030 says, how do you react to someone when they attack your character or when they are vague? Okay, Kat, we're going to talk about it. Let me say hello to everybody real quick. Cookie Dough 111 says, I liked and subscribed. Well, appreciate that. Appreciate the cookie emojis. Alrighty, we have Alma Gear Enterprise says, I'm also coaching for education. Nice to meet you. Well, great. Well, glad you're here. And Alma Gear Enterprise says, I'm also subscribed and like. Well, I appreciate that. And we have Adit Prakash. Hello, how you doing? All right, let's go back to Kat's question. Kat says, how do you react to someone when they attack your character or when they are vague? Okay, two questions. First, when someone attacks your character, how do you react? You have to go back to what we talked about today. I know it's going to sound like we're going back. It all comes down to how do you process this information? How do you react when someone attacks your character or says something really bad about you? We got to go through the steps, Kat. How are we internally perceiving this information? Kat, do you know you're an awesome person and amazing? Yes, I know you're awesome and amazing. So when someone attacks your character, you have to take it as this person is very insecure about some aspect of their life. They are, because typically when someone attacks someone else's character, they are very, very insecure about something in their life. Now, you may not know what that thing is specifically, but I'm just sharing this with you from experience that typically this is what happens. People are really insecure. And if someone attacks, I've had my character attacked countless times. I can't tell you how many times this happened to me. But I will say that you have to, when you see that, you have to be very stoic in your response. That internally, I have it in my mind. I'm not letting any of that worry me because I know that I'm doing great things. I know what they're saying is completely inaccurate, and I actually feel kind of sorry for them, because if that's all you can say about my character, then what's going on with your character? You probably really got some issues going on. So I really do genuinely feel sorry for people, and that's in my very humble opinion. I'm being quite candid with you here. Thank you for the heart emojis. So that's my internal process, okay, Kat? I'm walking you through it. Internally, I'm thinking, okay, I could care less what this person says. I know I'm not like that. You're attacking my character. I feel sorry for you because you must be miserable. That literally, Kat, is my thought process. That's going the internal regulation. Okay, now I go into the external regulation. My face right here is stoic. It is stoic. I'm making direct eye contact with this person because I want them to know that what they're saying is not appropriate, and I'm going to showcase my mastery of my external facial expressions in a way that you can probably never be able to do. Number two. Number three, we go into the actual preparation. You know yourself, Kat, better than anybody else on the planet. You know how you are. You know how sweet and amazing you are. I interact with you here. I know you're very kind. I already know that. I know you are. No one's perfect, but you're a good person. And so you know yourself. And I would just I completely disagree with you. I don't know where you get that information from. And that may be a conversation where either you can determine if you want to have a dialogue with them or walk away. Typically, if someone's going to say something about your character, I would say something because you have to respond, and I would completely just walk away. Because there comes a point in time, Kat, and I know we've talked about this before, energetically, you don't want to be around people like that. They are just going to drag you down. Those are people that are not even literally, in my opinion, and people may say, I can't believe you said this, but it's true. They are not even worth an ounce of your breath to even speak to them, because attacking someone's character is not the right way to go about doing things. People may do something incorrectly. No one's perfect, but to say something about your character, that's just a whole nother level of low. And if that person feels good by saying that, then they can feel good by saying that by themselves. So I would excuse myself. I would say something. I wouldn't just not say anything, because you're pretty much acquiescing and saying, oh, it's okay for you to talk about my character like that. No, not once you subscribe to this channel and follow my content. No, we're not going to do that. But I would say, I'm not sure where you get your information, where you got that from after, the data, right? That preparation after the many things I've done or whatever the case may be. And I would just exit the conversation pretty quickly. That's how I would react if someone attacked my character. And when they're really vague, just like earlier, there was a question I didn't quite understand. I would just ask them to clarify this question. Please explain this to me. If they're vague, that's what I would do. All right, we have Elena Concepcion. Hi, it's Rosie. Hello, Rosie. It's been a little while. Good to see you again, friend. And we have Adit Prakash says your name. My name is Dr. Jacinta. I know you're just joining. All right, so Al Magir Enterprise says, I need your help. How can I improve communication skills publicly? Well, Al Magir, I know you just subscribed, so you are in the best place, friend. We are talking about that here in terms of difficult conversations. And how can you improve your communication skills publicly? Okay, I'm going to go through a couple things. And I don't know if you heard it, but I mentioned a couple of videos that you might definitely want to watch. Think on your feet, tone of voice, eye contact, body language, and managing your emotions under pressure. Almagira, this is a really good place for you to start. Any of those live video topics that I just mentioned is really helpful. Now, in terms of improving your communication skills publicly, a lot of it takes practice. You have to practice as much as you can, but you have to have a strategy for it. One of the most important things I would say for anybody, if you're trying to improve how you communicate publicly, is you have to engage your audience. Number one, if I just had one thing to tell you, engage your audience. How do you engage your audience? Ask them questions. Add humor when appropriate, when it makes sense, and it's not too much where people don't understand what you're saying. But engaging your audience is really, really important. But there's ways you communicate too. So and when you're in front of people, in front of a stage, I have some videos that talk about public speaking, specifically Almaguer, and it will help you if you take a look at a couple of those. But I would say to start, think about how you want to engage your audience and what kind of speaker do you want to be perceived as. Some people want to be perceived as the speaker that is in public that can just have a conversation with someone and make it feel like a conversation. That's my philosophy. When I do public speaking in events, I make my presentations like a conversation. However, there are some people out there that don't want to do that. They just want to come across as very academic, like they're reading a book and they're reading a presentation and they're reading every word on the presentation, every little line on the presentation, talking about every little picture on the presentation, because they want to portray themselves as that very academic type person. Well, I've been in school forever and I'm a doctor. I personally don't do that, but there's people out there that do. And so it really just depends on what kind of speaker you want to be known as. There's a lot we can go into, but Almaguer, if you want to tell me what maybe you're struggling with public speaking wise, I will give you some insights today, friend. Cat23 says, I am awesome and amazing. Appreciate it. Absolutely, Cat. Of course. High five, friend. I know you are. So when someone tries to attack your character, think about it. Make sure we're working on here. Here is most important, Kat. You have to have it in your mind where these things, how these facial expressions, someone attacking your character, it should just roll off your back. Where you're just like, okay, that's not going to impact me too much, but make sure you give a good response back. But it all comes down to that internal. Internal was first, remember? Internal is first. External is second, because your internal is going to control your external if you train it properly. So don't let anybody attack your character like that, but you definitely want to respond back. And if you have anything else that comes up, Kat, you know I'm here for you. Almaguer says, how to improve accent, how to improve public speaking. Are you coming live regularly? How can I practice step by step? And my age is 30 due to lack of communication skill. I don't get that success in my life. How can I give time on English accent? Okay, so Almaguer, thank you for the heart emojis, and let's dive in, friend. So I'll go answer a couple of your questions. So improving your accent, I have actually, I don't know the number off the top of my head. I have several people on my channel, and thank you for the heart emojis, friends. I have several people on my channel that actually that are following my channel to learn how to speak English. I have many people on my channel that do that. They actually come on live and say that. And if you're trying to improve your accent, just remember your accent is still your accent, okay? That doesn't mean anything's wrong with it. Most of the time when people talk about accents and etc., you have to just slow it down a little bit. That's probably the first thing I would say as a communicator. You have to just slow down, because I have an accent. Somebody talked about my accent earlier today. I have an accent. Many people have accents. Everybody has an accent, okay, to some extent. Even if you're based here in the United States like I am, I have a Southern accent. It comes from time to time, but sometimes it's not there. It just depends on where you live and where you have spent your time. But I have an accent here. There's accents here within the United States, just like there's accents in India. There's accents in all other countries. There is nothing, and I want to say this clearly, there's nothing wrong with an accent. I think we put a lot of emphasis when people are in other countries on accents, and there's nothing wrong with it. This is how you speak and how you communicate. The only thing I would say is probably just slow down a bit. Regardless of where you are, slow down a bit. That will help people to actually hear you. And I say that even if you have an accent, or even if you're just speaking. When you're speaking to other people, especially if you're public speaking, you have to slow down and speak a little bit slower than you normally would in an everyday conversation, so people can understand and process what you're saying. So maybe just slowing down a little bit, Almaguer, maybe one place to start. But I don't want you to think your accent is like bad or something you got to really improve upon. Just slow it down a little bit. I would say just slow down. In terms of public speaking, that is something that I do specifically with my clients. I have a one-on-one public speaking intensive to help with that. But there's a lot of videos here on my channel specifically to talk about public speaking and how to really help you be able to navigate that. As I mentioned, public speaking, slowing down is important. Engaging your audience is probably the most important thing you need to do. It's at the top of the list, really. You could have a horrible presentation that's just horrible. But if you have your audience laughing and they're having a good time, then I guarantee you they'll remember it. And you want to be memorable as a public speaker, so make sure you engage your audience. In terms of my lives, typically, Almaguer, I go live Tuesday, Thursday, Friday in the morning, in the evenings. On Wednesdays, I typically go live in the evenings. I was going live in the mornings on Wednesdays, and I'm based out of the U.S., but I have a couple things going on in the mornings right now, so I may be picking Wednesdays back up, or I may not. It just depends. But just know that Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, I have 2 lives, morning and the evening. Wednesday afternoon or Wednesday evening for sure will be a live. The Wednesday morning may be variable, but that's when I go live. I'm very consistent on my lives, and as I mentioned earlier, so much that I'm on YouTube's live streamer research panel because I've been so consistent on my lives. I've been on the panel for an entire year now, giving them insights about live streaming. So I am there very consistently. How can you practice step by step? Just really, it takes some practice. I've been doing public speaking for over 20 years, and it took me a very long time to get to where I am now compared to where I was when I started. Following my channel is a great place to start. And then, of course, if you ever need like one-on-one intensive, then definitely take a look at exciteexcellence.org, and I'll help you there. So you mentioned about your age is 30, lack of communication skill. Well, if you feel like you didn't get success in your life because of communication, then Almaguer, you're at the very best place on YouTube. I'm here to help you any way that I can. If you watch any of my videos and a question comes up for you specifically, then type it in the comments below. I'm here really to help you all. I really am. I'm probably one of there's a lot of us out here that create content. And there's some people, I will tell you candidly, there's some people that are doing, very, very well that are not that engaged with their audience. I really am. And I really genuinely do care about you all, especially if you're trying to communicate at a higher level. I'm incredibly passionate about it. If you don't know that by now, I can eat, live, sleep, talk about this all day. And I'm here really to help you. So if you feel like communication is something that's holding you back from your success in life, can communication do that? It can. It really, really can. But Alma Gear, that doesn't mean that it's going to be like that forever. You're welcome to ask me any questions. I will help you communicate as best as I can. As much as I can do virtually, because I know you're in another country. But you can just start today. Okay? We can start today. As long as you get started today and start working on it, you'll be able to be more successful, because I really, truly do believe that people become great by how they communicate. And so my mission really is to unlock the greatness within you. And so Alma Gear says, how can I give time on English accent? You just have to practice. I think you have to practice and listen. I know a lot of people, as I mentioned earlier, they actually do listen to my channel and listen to how I speak in terms of speaking in English. As I mentioned, I do have an accent. It comes out from time to time. And I have an accent specifically, but I know some people listen to just the way that I speak. How can I contact you? Yes. So Alma Gear, so you can contact me, either send me a message here on YouTube on the comments. I'm on Instagram at Excite Excellence. I'm also on LinkedIn at Excite Excellence and Dr. Jacinta Lamantine on LinkedIn. Those are my main platforms, are YouTube, Instagram, and LinkedIn. I have Facebook, but I don't check Facebook as often. So if you really want to get in contact with me, either LinkedIn will be fine, either on my business page at Excite Excellence or Dr. Jacinta Lamantine, or on Instagram. All of those social media handles and links are all in the description below on this video. Cat 2030 says, do not limit yourself because of communication skills. Just keep going. Try to learn. You'll be good to go. Exactly, Kat. Thank you, friend. I appreciate that. And it's just something you have to practice. We all practice. Even though I do very well with speaking and etc., I'm still always learning. It's something that you just always learn. There's people out there that are really great communicators that don't learn anymore. They stop learning. And when you stop learning, you stop learning. So just know that it's something you can always become better at. And like Kat said, don't limit yourself. Alma Gear says, how many vocabulary should be memories for making a sentence? You may want to clarify in terms of vocabulary what you mean specifically. Share with me what you're talking about there. But yeah, clarify that for me if you can, Alma Gear. Thank you for the heart emojis. Avion Giles, hello, how you doing today? I believe you've been on the channel before. Welcome. Yusef Hamad, 414, hello. Pio, 1995 says, are you a teacher, professor? No, I'm actually a doctor and an executive coach and consultant, but I do teach here on YouTube, friend. We have UP78 Writer, hello. And we have Adil Khan saying something that's completely ridiculous, so we're going to keep moving on. And let's see. I don't know. I see POCT. I don't know what you're talking. I'm not sure what you're referring to. Alma Gear Enterprise says, how many word vocabulary should be memories? So to be memories, I would say if I think I understand your question correctly, if not, then clarify for me, let me know so I can make sure I respond to you appropriately. I would say when you think about vocabulary and etc., it's something that you actually want to speak almost I think they say you speak at a third or fourth grade level. And so you don't necessarily need to use big, long vocabulary words, depending on who you're talking to. If you're talking to a group of people that may be very academic or very highly educated, then maybe you can get away with a couple words. But ultimately, your vocabulary should be, I would say I would try to use words that are a bit more engaging, a bit more exciting, especially when you're speaking to a group of people, because ultimately, when you are trying to engage an audience, what does that mean? You're engaging with them, you're interacting with them. So you want to use words that are a bit more exciting, insightful, just really exciting words for people to listen to. We have Mama Salu Mbalo. Hello, how are you? I hope you're doing well today. Good to see you. So what other questions do you all have? I'm here to help you out for at least the next few minutes or so. Any questions you have? What are some of your goals? We have goals from Kat. Kat's trying to work on being able to finish school and work on her second year in college and writing some novels, which is amazing. Anybody else have any goals that they want to talk about very briefly? Almagear says, I'm preparing Indian Civil Services. Thank you. Your guidance is important for me. Absolutely, friend. Welcome. And you're so welcome. I appreciate you for being here. And any questions that come up, Almagear, I'm here to support you any way that I can. Let me know how I can help you or what questions you have. We have Richard Smith II. Hello, Richard. Welcome, friend. How are you? Richard said, happy what's left of your Friday, buddy. Welcome. Good to see you, Richard. I hope your Friday is going well and that you had a fantastic week. Robert, welcome back, friend. How you doing today? Good to see you, Robert. Robert says, hello, Robert here. Having one question. Of course, Robert. You're welcome to ask me anything, friend. Good to see you and Richard again. We have Sham Bushkar. Hold on. Let me make sure I said it correctly. Sham Busarkar. I'm sorry. Says nice hair. I appreciate that. Almagear Enterprise says you're a business consultant or education. So I'm actually not a business consultant. I've ran businesses as a C-suite executive, but I am more of a executive coach and consultant. So that's really what my main focus is. And if you like this information, you're welcome to subscribe to the channel. I appreciate all of you liking this video. That's quite a few likes here. So I appreciate you being here. And let me know where I can help you. Let me know what question you have. I know Robert's got a question that I'm waiting for, and I'm here to support you all any way that I can. And I appreciate you all for watching. We've been live for about 81 minutes now. We have Ruwat Feli. I hope I said that right. 66 says, where are you from, sister? I am from the United States, based out of the amazing Sunshine State of Florida. All right, while I'm waiting for Robert's question, there's a couple things that I have that I'm going to actually be releasing here very soon. There is a free ebook. It is going to be a smaller ebook that I'm actually going to be releasing here that is going to be a high stakes communication ebook. Now, this book is going to give you some insights that we talk about some on the channel, but in a bit more detail, to give you some good ways to start developing yourself as someone who can manage those very highly challenging or contentious situations that happen from time to time. And I'm also going to be writing another book later this year that is going to be a formal book that I will talk to you all a little bit more about as time goes on. Almagear says, it is my blessing to get advice from you. Oh, well, thank you, Almagear. I appreciate that. And as I mentioned, just feel free to contact me, or just if you see any videos and maybe you listen to something and you think, oh, I had this situation come up, or maybe you have a question, just put it in the comments of the actual question itself. And I'll respond to your comments. I do respond to your comments. Richard knows that. I respond to Richard's comments when he makes them. And a lot of my other audience members that mention comments on videos, thank you for the heart emojis. So this is something that I will do. If it requires a lot of depth, more than just a comment, then Almagear, I'll do a video just for you and give you a shout out in it. And either do it as a live, or I will end up doing it as a pre-recorded video. I am going to transition into more pre-recordeds, hopefully within the next 2 months. I'm really looking forward to getting back into that. I'm still going to be here for you all live, but I have so much knowledge and so much insight I want to share with y'all that I'm just trying to get everything together. Okay, so Kat 23rd says, how do we get the book? Kat, I do not have it finished yet, but as soon as I do, you will know about it, Kat. I will put it everywhere and make sure I talk about it on all of my lives. It is something I'm going to make sure that is relevant to my audience to really help them be able to navigate those situations specifically. So Kat, when I definitely release the shorter ebook, it is a smaller ebook. That is something I'll definitely make sure you'll know about it, Kat, for sure, because you're on the channel very often. Age. So I would say Alma Gear. If you're asking for age, I would say I'm old enough, friend. I've been in these roles for over 20 years. So I'm definitely older for sure. Robert, let's see, what do you have going on, Robert? Okay. Robert says, when an employee has good project knowledge, consistent high performance, and excellent quality, literally, he is a top performer in the team, but he has the worst attitude, rude talking, even not a good behavior with women colleagues. And my question is, so as a team lead, do I have to keep him in the team for his high performance or need to move him out of the team for his behavior? Robert, you always have the best questions. You and Kat and everyone else. There's a certain group of you here that have just really, really, really good questions, and I just appreciate it. All right, Robert, let's talk. I've had people like this before, and I would say if you're asking, this is just from my experience. Let me give you a question first before I give you what I have done in the past. You have to determine what's most important to you as the lead. And some people will say, oh, I'm more important about performance and quality and etc. And then some people say, I could care less about that. You have to be able to treat your team respectfully. It depends on the type of environment that you're in. Why do I say that? You may think, oh my gosh, why would someone keep a high performer even though they're not doing well? I'm sharing this with you because I've been in situations where people have done that. I'm just being honest with you. People do that. They really do. And what I would say personally, I've dealt with a situation like that, Robert. I have. And what I did, I moved them. I moved that person. Well, let me take it back a step further. I'll give you some context. I had someone like that. I had a conversation with them. So I had a difficult conversation with them, and especially the way that they were communicating to people and etc. And so I had to basically set myself up for, let me see what's going on with this person. Same thing I mentioned a little bit about having a difficult conversation and making it like a conversation. I literally would ask that person, how are things going for them? What are they struggling with? Why? I've heard that there's been some challenges in how you're communicating with, the team as a whole, and you have an attitude in the women and etc. Why do you feel like can you tell me a little bit about what's going on? And I wouldn't allude to say, I know you're acting bad or you're acting up. I would just say, can you tell me about what's going on? Let that person tell you what's in their head. And Robert, that will be able to let you know which direction you need to go. Why? Because you may have a situation, and I've had these, Robert, you may have a situation where that person may be misunderstood or something else is going on, or that person may truly legitimately be really rude, and it may be somebody you do not want a part of your team. I have let team members go. I have fired people before for acting in a very, very disgruntled way with the team. I personally have done that because for me, I highly, highly value teamwork. I have to make sure the team is cohesive. Now, that doesn't mean you cater to every single person on your team. You can't do that. But there are certain things that are a no, no, no. Now, you mentioned about the person's being rude. It sounds like they're just being rude to everybody. And then there's some interactions with the women colleagues. I don't know what he's saying or what he's doing. I can only kind of assume he may be saying some not appropriate things to them, or maybe just being just rude to them. I don't know. But I would say, if you have to, you just need to see what's in their head. I think that's really the place I would start, Robert. I would say, I've heard these things have happened, but I wanted to get your take to see if you can explain to me what's going on. Let him tell you what is going on. You may be surprised and say, oh, wow, this is a misunderstanding. Or you may be surprised and say, wow, this guy needs to go. I've had those conversations where I've let that person say what they need to say. And I've had conversations where I was surprised. Maybe something else had happened previously. And I've had conversations where I was surprised and I said, this person they have to go. And so you have to figure out, one, what you want to do, but then when it comes to performance and when it comes to behavior, what's most important to Robert? And that's a personal question. That's a personal question. You have to think about it, especially as a team lead. I can just say from my humble experience, when I have situations like that, I would, if I had somebody that was the top producer and that was quality and that was great, I would fire them like that if they were being rude and disrespectful to my team to a point where it was going to become, one, just disrespectful, but then two, it's going to become a liability for them to continue acting this way to other people. That's just me. That's what I have done, Robert. Let me know if that gives you some insight or if there's anything else you want to talk a little bit more about. Abdul Rahman, hello, welcome. Says, I can design thumbnail for you. If you want me to design, you can contact me. Okay, thank you for letting me know. And we have Preet Singh. Hello, welcome back. Hello, yes, I remember you, Preet. Good to see you again, friend. Cat 2030 says, I would say talk to the person before you let them out and you act on impulse. If the problem continues, you then let them out. This also shows you were not quick to let them go. Exactly. And that's the reason why, Kat, I would mention to that person specifically, Robert's referring to, I would want to know what's in their head. I would really want to know what's in their head because it could be a misunderstanding. It could be a misunderstanding. And when those things happen, I usually get the teams together in a group setting and we kind of talk about what's going on. How can we improve? I almost make it to where it's like a meeting we have. We talk about communicating with each other and it usually gets ironed out. But if you have that conversation and you see that this person really has a true disdain for their coworkers and everybody else, then you might want to pause about that and think about it. Robert says, thank you for the detailed explanation. Your way of speech is absolutely clear and understandable. Well, thank you, Robert. Your questions are great, as always, and I appreciate your insight on that. I know you're dealing with a lot, as a team lead. I know there's a lot of things that you're managing right now. So if any way I can help you, especially in those very challenging conversations, let me know. Let me know how things work out with your team, because these are real, truly, these are high stakes conversations, Robert. And a lot of times we don't know what to do, what to say, what's going to happen. There's a couple ways the conversation is going to go. Either there's going to be some miscommunication or he legitimately is this way. And if that's the case, you have to direct him and help him understand you can't act like that. I have people that did that at my job. I've had people that they've acted in that way, Robert. I guess I don't want to go into a ton of detail, but I've had very similar situations with people. And I'll tell you one, if I have time. Let me see if there's any other questions. So let me see. Robert says, maybe your live stream is free guidance for career solutions. Well, I've been in those situations as a higher level leader, and I know how challenging it is out there, and that's why I focus so heavily to make sure you all can communicate confidently under pressure. It's hard. It's not easy. It's very challenging. You don't know what to do. And it helps not only with your career, communication helps with just all aspects of your life. Your career, you getting a salary, you advancing in your career, you starting a business, you being a public official, you running operations, you're doing so many things. How you communicate is really important. And even how you communicate in those hard situations is even more so important. So it's really good to be able to do that. And thank you for the smiley face, Robert. We have Eric L4440 says, good talk. Well, hello, Eric. I think this is the first time I've seen you here. So welcome, friend. Hope you're doing well. So let me give you an example. Okay, Robert. So this is just for you, friend. I had a situation come up, and I will not say which role I was in because I have people that watch my channel. Hello, S4 Bill. Hello, welcome. Say hello, beautiful. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I had a situation happen many years ago where there was two co-workers, and there was a situation that happened between a gentleman and a lady, and the gentleman was not being appropriate to the lady. Well, what happened is that we had a conversation with the gentleman, because sometimes when you see something on a video, you may instantly think, oh, I can't believe this person did that. But there's always a backstory that people forget about. So we had a conversation with the gentleman about what happened specifically. And there was obviously a point in time where the gentleman and the lady, there was some type of interaction between the two of them, where the gentleman felt like the specific thing that he did was okay. Now, if you would have taken it at face value, similar to what Kat was saying, if you would have taken it at face value, would have almost said, oh, well, we know this person is doing wrong. But if you take a step back and just really give the person the opportunity to not explain themselves or just share their insights, it gives you a deeper perspective so you know what's going on. Now, ultimately, we ended up separating those two individuals where they worked at two different locations, two different sites, because it wasn't to the point where it was egregious, where they were being mean to each other, but it was obviously some dynamic there that it just wasn't appropriate. That's the best way I can say it. It wasn't appropriate, and I don't think it may have been reciprocated at one time and then it wasn't. And so when you have those situations, these things really do come up, Robert, as leaders. They do. People think, oh, leadership is easy. They just sit around and hang out and receive paychecks. No, leadership can be very challenging and very hard. And there's a lot of hard conversations that you have, but you can make those conversations very easy by following the steps. So for me, when I saw what happened in the video, I saw it. I didn't like it at all. But I said, I need to find out more. And I say this a lot, even personally, I need more data. I just see a snapshot in time of something inappropriate, but I need to know what is going on here. So I asked the gentleman, I asked the lady, what happened here? I put it together and I said, okay, there was a point in time where y'all were reciprocating, and now that's not okay. That's fine. Remember, this is a workplace. You have to communicate as professionals. Keep your hands to yourself. I mean, that's the best way I can say it. And you go here and you go here. It was not a hard conversation. People would think, oh, that's hard. It was not a hard conversation. I've had some tough conversations in the past. Thank you for the heart emojis. That were really challenging when I was much younger, but as an executive, those hard conversations are easier to have, because I share and I follow the exact same steps that I mentioned to you this afternoon. And this afternoon, we talked about your internal regulation. If you're trying to make difficult conversations easily, internally regulating yourself, externally regulating yourself, making sure that your facial expressions, your body language are incongruent with what's in your mind. Third, making sure you prepare. You have some numbers, you have some data. So in Robert's case, you may have asked a couple people, you asked 4 or 5 people, you have some numbers, you have something to support why you're asking this, and then you have to execute. You have to execute it in such a way to where you come across very clear, very concise. Have a question. All right, so Robert says, thank you, ma'am. I got some ideas today. See you later. Bye. See you later, Robert. Good to see you. And thank you for the heart emojis. And we have S4 Bill 777 says, and where are you from? I am from the United States of America, the Sunshine State of Florida. Okay, we've talked about a lot. What other questions do you all have as it relates to this topic? Or what questions do you have about navigating some very challenging situations that you're dealing with professionally right now? This is a great opportunity for you to ask me anything. We have been live for about 98 minutes now, and I really appreciate you all being here, watching the live. You all are the best part of the YouTube for sure. I really absolutely just adore my audience. You all are very high achievers, and that's the type of individuals that I like to work with. We have Corella Diary. I don't know what that means, but hello, welcome. So let me know what questions you have. And if you are new to me or you recently subscribed, I do go live relatively consistently here. I talked about that earlier. I go live Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday in the morning, in the evening, and typically Wednesday evenings I go live. And I'm here to support you any way that I can. This channel focuses very heavily on advanced communication skills and strategies, and you will learn how to communicate more confidently and concisely under pressure, which is something many people struggle with. If you happen to be in my direct target audience that I provide executive coaching and consultation services to, which are women in leadership, we can work together. I can help you go to that next level that you need to be able to manage those situations so you feel more confident and you don't feel as worried, as stressed when you have those situations come up. Just reach out to me for an executive strategy session on the website at exciteexcellence.org, and we'll set up some time to talk about your goals and how we can get you there. If you happen to be outside of my target audience and you are a man in leadership or a person that is thinking about leadership, then I guarantee you will learn a tremendous amount of information from this channel. This is the only channel on YouTube that is going into surgical-like detail on how you can communicate concisely under pressure. There's no other channel like this on YouTube. All right, Eric L4440 says, I heard you said executive. Are you in an executive role? You speak really well. Okay, so Eric, welcome, because this is my first time seeing you. I have worked as a C-suite executive for many, many years. I have worked as a director for many, many years. So basically, the past 20 years of my life, I've been a C-suite executive and I've been a director. I've been a manager. And yes, I have worked in those roles. And thank you for saying I speak really well. I appreciate that. A lot of that comes from being in an executive role. I've been a senior leader. I've been the decision maker many times again. And I'm also a public speaker. I've been a public speaker for over 20 years. And I took some time during my journey 20 years ago, believe it or not, where I decided to join Toastmasters International, and I accomplished their Distinguished Toastmasters Award, which is Toastmasters, if you're not aware, it is a world-renowned public speaking and leadership organization, and they help you be able to communicate better. And I did that, and so I decided to do a lot of speeches with them, over 50 plus, and I became a distinguished Toastmaster, which only 1% of their 358,000 members worldwide accomplished that award. That is where, if you hear me speak well, all of it comes from me being able to higher level roles and be able to communicate with other people and accomplish awards. I've interacted with congressional leaders at the highest level here in the United States and locally here in the Sunshine State of Florida. And I've been in different situations where I have to communicate at a different level compared to, let's say, the average person, which is why I'm here on this channel to support you all, to share everything that I know to help you any way that I can. So when you're in those situations and they come up, then you know how to communicate under pressure. A lot of times, Eric, on this channel, that we haven't had really too much today, but we will have an occasional troll spotting here that will come on the channel, and they'll say things. And a lot of times you'll see me either interact with them if I feel like I need to, or it may be something where I just completely hide them from the channel. But I do have to speak in a certain way so that I can help you all speak in a higher level way as well. That's my mission here on this earth, is to help you to communicate more confidently and concisely under pressure. Cat 23 says, question. Yes, Cat, of course. Cat says, how do you deal with a situation where your workplace ignores your visible efforts or do not acknowledge your efforts? That's a really great question, Cat. And there's a couple ways that you can deal with situations like that. One, there's really two ways. The first way is, are you visible? Are people seeing you, and are they actually seeing what you're doing? What I found that happens a lot of times, and I ask this because I've seen this happen before, you'll have those very high achievers like yourself, Kat, that are doing all these amazing things, but the right people do not know it. There's people that are your immediate group you work with, your coworkers, and then there's people that are maybe your managers, and then there's the next level of people that are maybe your managers, and then the next level of people that may be your CEOs and your C-suites. So sometimes if you feel like you're being ignored, make sure that you're being visible. Like the people that need to see you need to see you. So for instance, if you need to have someone above your manager see your information, then find a way to communicate with this person and let them know what you're working on. You don't have to do it in a very bragging type of way, but that's one aspect of it. The other aspect of it is in terms of if you have that situation where your job is ignoring you, this is a situation. How you deal with it, you start planning your exit. And it may be a situation where, let's say they're going through a hard time, maybe they're losing money, maybe they're in the middle of a crisis, I don't know, where everybody's attention is maybe focused on something else instead of their employees. Why do I say that? Because I've been in organizations where that's happened. And that may be a reason why people may not be paying attention to your efforts as much, because they're dealing with something else. You may not know what that something else is, and I appreciate the heart emojis, but I'm just sharing this with you from an executive perspective, that it could be something else going on and everybody's mind is occupied by trying to make sure they're making payroll and paying everybody. Sometimes they don't care what everybody else is doing, to be honest with you. They're like, can we make sure we have enough money to make payroll? Can we make sure we have enough money to pay our employees? Everything else doesn't matter. We don't care what anybody's doing. We got to make sure everybody's getting paid. And that's just being honest with you. The third part of that is, thank you for the heart emojis, you may need to look for another job. Sometimes you will work for companies, especially in just corporations and businesses, where they will just work. They just want you just to work. They don't care what you do. They don't acknowledge your efforts. They don't care. They just want you to work. It kind of reminds me of I was just talking to somebody about this earlier today. I was watching a series. It's an older series, but I just happened to watch it because I do not watch TV at all unless it's about business stuff, cars from time to time, and maybe something to help me just learn. But I watched this video series, and it was by the History Channel, and it's called The Men Who Built America. And they talked about a couple of the families that built America. And the one I'm referring to specifically was Andrew Carnegie, and how there was a situation at the plant and they just wanted the workers just to work, right? They just wanted the workers just to work. They were making them working double time, triple time. They were reducing their wages. They were not in paying attention to them. They were ignoring them, all of that. Why do I bring that up? One, because it was a very interesting series, but then two, all of those things brought about labor laws that we have here. And thank you for the heart emojis. We have labor laws here in the United States now. That's the reason why we have labor laws, is because of the things that were happening decades and decades ago. But even though we have labor laws and things like that, that mentality still exists to this day, to a certain extent in some organizations. Why? Because you have situations, just as you mentioned, where you're working at a place, they're ignoring your efforts, and they don't acknowledge your efforts. It's just like it was many years ago, and that was decades and centuries ago. And that's the part that's really scary, because this was a long time ago, and we still experience these things today, right now. And I would plan an exit if you feel like your efforts are not being recognized. Take some time to just think about what's important to you. I know you're in school, so there's always a balance there where you're trying to work. You want to work at a place that's helpful and supportive of your school schedule, because I know how it was. I used to work 3 jobs when I was an undergraduate, and I know how important it is to have a little bit of a balance there. But think about what's really important to you. And I would just follow what I mentioned. Make sure you're visible, that the right people see it. Because sometimes you may be doing all these things, thank you for the heart emojis, and just the right people aren't seeing it. Same thing as if you're building a business. You may be doing all these things that are wonderful, but the right people aren't seeing your services, your products, etc. And you just sit in a silo and you're wondering, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm about to just lose it because my business isn't making money. Sometimes you have to be in the right setting to do that. I learned that as an entrepreneur. That's what I'm doing now. But then sometimes you may need to look for something else. There may be an opportunity where you're working at another organization that values your expertise. But just keep in mind, there's companies out there that just want you just to work. or they may just have other things going on that is taking their attention. Just depends on how long it's been going on. If it's been going on for a long time, then that may be just the culture of the job. But if it's something that you've been doing a lot of work and you just noticed recently that they have not been really paying attention, there may be some fire, some crisis that they're dealing with that they don't want you all to know about, but they're just trying to make sure they're making payroll. Let me know if you have any other questions, Kat. That's a really good question. Eric L4440 says, even worse, sometimes even salary is ignored. Yes, Eric, yes, it is. I went through that situation. I'm assuming you're saying it was worst feeling I had. I couldn't stand being ignored to the point of not being paid on time. If I kept quiet, no, nothing. Yeah, so your salary can be ignored. And I'll tell you something too. And Kat 23 says, appreciate Doc. Of course, Kat, I'm here for you. Yes, and Eric, I'll tell you too, I was in a situation like that of not being paid on time also. So I've talked about this on my channel, and Eric, I know we haven't interacted that much before. So what happened to me, I'll tell you just really quickly. How many years ago was this? Decades ago now. Probably about a decade, maybe a decade, 2 decades, decade and a half ago, when I was working as a dentist, because that's my profession as a dentist, is I was working at a specific place where they were not, it was a small office. They were not paying me on time. Something would always happen to the payrolls, to the checks. Initially it wasn't an issue, right? Initially nothing's ever a problem. But it got to the point where it was every check, it was just late. Like, why is the checks late? Why are they late? And so it got to the point where I was working, and this time I asked the question, where's my paycheck? Like, where is my paycheck? I don't know where my paycheck's at. And the office manager at the time said, oh, I'm going to give it to you tomorrow. And tomorrow would come and tomorrow would go, Eric. And I said, okay, where's my paycheck? Eric, it got to the point where I didn't give them too many days to do that, because that's not how I operate specifically. But it got to the point where I had to go in and I had to say, look, I'm not doing anything until you pay me my check. People would come in and tell me, oh, I have this, I have that. I'm not doing anything until I get my check. So what happened, Eric? They gave me my check. And I got my check and I left. Because like you said, this is a hard situation where you can't stand being ignored, especially not being paid on time for work that you have already done. And it's unfortunate that places are like that, but honestly, that's how some businesses are. Now, fast forward several months later, after I'd already quit that particular role, I was informed by someone that was there that the office manager was embezzling money. Now, everything made sense. Why I was not getting paid and why the paychecks would just suddenly just be delayed. And it was a paper check that the owner would write. There was something that it wasn't the owner's fault. It was the office manager's fault. And the office manager was embezzling money. These situations, just like Eric said, they legitimately do happen. And just like Kat said, people will ignore you at work. And it just depends on the place. Sometimes, like as I mentioned, and I'm sharing this with you from being a C-suite, they may have something going on, or they may just not care. And I hate to say that, but honestly, there are just some companies out there that just simply do not care. They just want you to work. And I know that's harsh. Not all companies are like that, though. They're not. But there are quite a few that are like that. Eric L4440 says, exactly right. Yes, these situations happen. They do, unfortunately. Eric, so what did you end up doing? Did you end up staying, or did you end up leaving eventually? I'm assuming you probably left. All right, we have Saklane Khan. So Saklane Khan says, go to sleep. I'm not, I think you're just spamming. Basically, it looks like you're spamming. Therefore, I'm going to have to hide you from the channel. But yeah, so it's common for organizations to do that. You just have to find the right one. And sometimes it's hard. Sometimes when you work at a new company, things start off, everything's great. And then after a while, you start to notice that things aren't making sense. You don't know how this is happening, or you're not getting paid, or you're not getting compensated. You just have to be mindful of it. Eric says, yes, I left. Well, good. High five, Eric. I'm glad you did, because I know situations like that, you have to juggle it. And you have to make that real decision to say, I mean, there comes a point where you just think to yourself, I'm not doing this. I mean, everybody has that point where they say, I'm not doing this. No, I'm not doing this. And you have to leave and go somewhere else. So, Eric, I'm glad you left. I knew you did based on what you were saying. I could tell. I've been doing this long enough. I knew you probably was going to head out of there. Cat 23 says, final paycheck violations. So sometimes when you think about final paycheck violations, and I'm going to just mention a couple things, depending on what happens, if you're working for an organization and if it's not at will, most companies nowadays are at will, so you should be paid. But sometimes what happens if you don't give some form of a notice, the companies will try to withhold your PTO. Typically what happens is when you are leaving an organization and you're given some form of a notice, you will be able to be paid your PTO. If you had PTO time that you had and you just didn't use it and you gave a notice, they typically will put that PTO on your final paycheck. However, depending on the job and what happens and how they do things, they may try to withhold your PTO, saying, oh, you didn't do this, you didn't do that, or something, some type of something to figure out how not to pay you. And so those are some final paycheck violations that can actually come up that I have seen and that have really left a person's already leaving the organization, but it leaves a horrible impression when someone is trying to do something to their final paycheck, or they may do something along with their benefits. I've seen a lot of things happen when it comes to final paychecks that are not friendly, that are definitely not friendly to the employee. And I just encourage everybody that ultimately, unless you're working for yourself, it's always a little harder to be able to generate the income that you're looking for, because jobs are jobs, and there's always good opportunities and there's opportunities to do better. And sometimes you have to just deal with unnecessary drama at times from either managers that may be toxic, or situations that may be toxic, or challenging individuals, as Kat mentioned earlier today, or as Eric mentioned, when you have situations where people ignore you and they don't pay you on time. It's just something you just have to really be mindful of when you're working for any job. And I just always tell my clients, especially in a one-on-one setting, to always just be very observant in terms of what's going on. And the strategies and the skills that I share with you all here on this channel are not just for you just to be able to speak in public or talk to people. This is for your everyday conversations. You can pick up on so much that is going on with someone or a company or individuals in a company just by using some of the strategies that I share with you here on this channel, especially when it comes to observation and seeing exactly how they're reacting when you say certain things. This is a skill, it's a strategy, it's definitely a high level skill, and that's why I'm here to support you so you can navigate those very high stakes, high pressured situations with ease and be the person that is always ahead of the game, because you know what's going on. Even though people will not tell you what's going on, you pick it up pretty quickly. Kat says, can be considered as wage theft since it's a failure to pay earned wages or promised compensations. Yes, it can. It absolutely can. And there's always, of course, legal ramifications to that. But you have to just really be careful on your last check and make sure everything is as it should be. Because I've seen situations where it can be a little bit more challenging, and everything doesn't happen as well as it should. Now, I share with you my story specifically that happened to me in terms of paychecks, and that's happened to me, and it was not fun at all. I did not like it. So always just being mindful, and we talk a little bit about this on the channel, is really trying to develop multiple streams of income in your journey is critically important. Start working on your wealth building journey and determining exactly what it is, how you want to get things going, because You just never know what's happening in the world today and your companies and etc. Everybody goes through challenges. You just don't want to be that person that's caught off guard where they say, oh, by the way, we have a reduction in force, or we have to lay you off, or you have to get fired for whatever reason, and you're in a situation where you're in just a really tough spot. So I just encourage all my audience, even though this is not necessarily a direct thing that we talk about on my channel, but we talk about this a lot. And we talk about not only helping you communicate at that higher level than your peers, but helping you really function at that higher level too. I will tell you that I've talked to multiple multimillionaires and billionaires about how they build wealth and etc. And you have to have multiple streams. It can't just all come from one place. The same thing if you're working as a W-2 right now, you do not want all of your income to come from a W-2. If you want to stay in W-2 land, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. Thank you for the heart emojis. But you just have to keep in mind, you need some other income coming in. Whether you're doing things like Kat's got her novels. Kat, I'm sure your novels will be great when you get them out there. That will be another source of income from you as you're developing there. We have Aegis Saputra. Hello, welcome. How you doing today? Says, I like you. I'm Cyrus. I'm Cyrus. I am in Bali. Well, welcome. Glad you're here in Bali. What time of the day is it in Bali? I'm just curious. Right now, it is 9:23 Eastern Standard Time, but I don't know the time in Bali off the top of my head. Eric says, there is a difference now, being invisible in that company and being free now, self-employed. Well, high five, Eric. So what do you do for business right now? So that's great. Yes, and Eric, and I know you can attest to this too. It's so different when you're working as an entrepreneur. It's so different and you're self-employed, and always you have a bit more freedom of your time, freedom of your life. There's a struggle now. There's always a struggle as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, where you're generating revenue and you're in a good place. But it is something that is priceless, I would say, when you've been in those situations like Eric, like myself, where you've had to work for companies or work in organizations where your paychecks have been off, or your paycheck has been missing, or it's been delayed, called in the mail, called in a snowstorm. I mean, whatever excuses people have, it can be really very, very, very frustrating in those situations. And once you've been in those situations a few times, you start to see there has to be a better way to life. And so really congratulate you on your business, Eric. That's fantastic. And you're welcome to share what kind of business you have. And if you have any information you want to share out to the audience, let me know. I'll be happy to do so for you, because I'm always definitely supporting my audience in terms of the endeavors that they're doing. And then also, if you have businesses, you have books you're releasing, I will definitely share that information out to everybody. And I appreciate the heart emojis as well. So we talked about a lot today. We've talked about multiple things. There's a lot of ways for you to be able to make difficult conversations easy. They do not have to be hard. Just make sure you follow the steps that I mentioned earlier in terms of the high level view. As I mentioned, there's a lot that goes into difficult conversations to be very, very good, to master them. But today I wanted to at least share with you just very high level overview to give you some insight in terms of what it is that you can start thinking about now that will help you be able to navigate those situations so that they're not so stressful. I know difficult conversations can be really stressful, but I'm just sharing with you my experience. I don't mind having difficult conversations. I can't say I just enjoy them, because I know that would sound probably kind of odd for me to say that, but it's because I've done so many of them. I've been in so many of them that have been very contentious, where it just comes second nature to me. It can come second nature to you too, as long as you have a really good structure and format that you follow, that you start working within yourself to help you to manage your emotions when those situations happen, because that truly is the key. If you emotionally get really very, very upset, and thank you for the heart emojis, if you get emotionally very, very upset, you will physically show it, you externally will show it, and then everybody will know it. And sometimes you have to show emotion strategically. It just depends. Sometimes you need to, sometimes you don't. So I hope that gives you some insight for you to think about as you're moving forward. Let me know what other questions you all have. I appreciate your support on the channel. I appreciate you being here. And I am looking forward to helping you all on your journey as you're asking other questions as it relates to communicating and speaking in public and interacting with your audiences or your businesses or your colleagues or your direct reports, or you're doing a conference. Communication is critically important. And as I mentioned, there's a lot of leaders that are able to speak very well and speak very articulate and do very well. But what happens when that conversation goes under pressure? That is where my expertise lies. And that is something that I see as being a gap in the marketplace, because oftentimes you can't speak from experience that you just simply do not have. If you don't have the experience where you've been in those contingent situations, it sounds very, very, very academic, and it sounds very much, we're going to read it up. We're going to talk about this leadership model. We're going to talk about this hypothesis. We're going to talk about this theory. I've read leadership models and theories and all that. I had to do that being a doctor. But I will tell you that those things will not help you under pressure. You're going to be in a conversation. I appreciate the heart emojis where you say, you will not be in a situation where someone, like Kat said, is challenging you, and you're going to say, oh, wait, I need to use the leadership model, number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, to help me come back and gather my thoughts. By that time, the difficult conversation has already started and ended, and you still look like the person that doesn't know exactly what's going on. I'm sharing with you real strategies, real situations, and real ways to tactically respond back and be able to maintain your composure, still present yourself as an executive, present yourself as someone that is in control of not only the conversation, but you're in control of your emotions as well. So that's what I'm here to support you with. Kat says, appreciate your efforts, Doc. We don't thank you enough. Well, no, you all are just being here. I appreciate you being here and supporting me on the channel and helping the channel grow. Feel free to share it with any of your colleagues, your friends, your loved ones. Thank you for the heart emojis that you know could benefit from being able to communicate at a very higher level, at a polished level, and not only just polished level, but be able to really communicate and master an aspect of communication that so many people struggle with, and that is communicating under pressure. Many people struggle with that. I will be live next week. I hope you all have an absolutely amazing weekend. Friday evenings typically don't necessarily go this long, so we've been live for 126 minutes now, which is one of my longer live, not the longest one, but one of my longer ones. But I do have a bit more time on Fridays. So if you have a lot more questions and answers that you want to ask me, Friday evenings are typically a really good time because I have time to talk to you, to give you some insights, to have some dialogue with you. And all the information we talk about really does help the channel, and it also helps the individuals that watch the replay, because a lot of my audience can't join live and they watch the actual replay. So I do see that. So Friday nights are really more question and answer. So if you have a situation you have going on, if you're not able to catch me during the live during the week that are a little bit shorter, definitely Friday nights are the best way, because I don't have to worry about kids in school the following day. So I appreciate you all so much. I hope you have an absolute amazing weekend, and I will see you all next Tuesday for the next week's live. Bye for now.